Hi everybody, and welcome to our AP Lazer workshop on this fine Friday. I appreciate y'all joining us today. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be walking through the process on how to take a photographic image and stitch it. One of the reasons we would do something like this is if we've got a smaller machine and a larger piece of material that we're trying to etch. Typically something like a granite monument or a long piece of wood, something along those lines there. Now, I don't actually have a really large piece to actually simulate for you guys, but what I do have is I have a piece of acrylic that we're going to actually do. And so I'm going to show you how to separate an image into two different sections and, again, just kind of walk you through the process. Now, with the stitching, it's one of those things that is an easy enough process, but the actual doing it on the machine end of things is a little bit trickier. Even myself, someone who's got a lot of years of experience, can often make mistakes with this. I always highly recommend practicing, testing, and it's really one of those things where you don't want to really rush the process. Take your time, make sure that you're doing it correctly to avoid unnecessary waste of materials or having to take a stone back out to get polished. Again, what we're going to kind of do is walk through that process, and there's some things that you're going to want to have on hand. So one thing that I like to do is, because we're doing something so detailed and we don't have a lot of room for error with this, is I actually like to measure out my product in millimeters instead of inches. I find millimeters just a little bit easier to get that pinpoint accuracy with it. So what you're going to want to do is have a nice yardstick like this that has both inches or millimeters on it. Or if you're able to find a tape measure like I do that is strictly in millimeters, that will help. What else that you're going to want is you're going to want some kind of straight edge or speed square. Because I'm working with something a little bit smaller here, this piece of acrylic, I've got what is called a combination square. Okay, what this does is it allows me to act like a speed square so I can get a straight edge on it, and it also has this adjustable ruler here that I can adjust and slide if I need to. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and measure out my product here and then take my calculations over to the laptop. So I'm first going to go ahead and measure out here, and we're about 300 millimeters. And then height-wise, we are, looks like 600.5. So again, those measurements are going to be 300 by 600.5. And my tools. So I'm going to come over here, not again, and I'm going to go ahead and mark out kind of a halfway point. What we're going to do here is you're going to want to mark out and make sure that we're finding the absolute center. This is going to help us pick up where we left off on the initial engraving here. Now, if you're doing a monument or anything like that, I would recommend using some tape. You don't really want to use a wax pencil on this or anything. You'd want a nice sharp edge here because, again, we're getting very precise here. So if I'm at 300, we're going to come over and mark our 150. And then we're 600.5, so it's going to be 300.25, which is about right inside here. All right, I'm now going to go ahead and take my combination square here. Get to a straight edge. Oop. Adjust this out. I'm just going to draw a nice mark there. And I'm going to do the same on this side here. This up just a little bit more. So we're going to go ahead and put that in our machine for right now, and then let's jump over to our computer. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and open up my Corel Photo Paint here. And we're going to start with a new document. So we're going to go ahead and name this our stitch. Just call it a stitch test. And then when I come down here to my dimensions, I'm going to come over where it says inches here and just change that to millimeters. All right. And let's see, we were at 600.5 for our height. Do 600.5, and then 300 millimeters for our width. Actually, I'm going to switch this around here. We're going to set the file up like we normally would, just make it a little bit easier to see here. And then 300. I'm going to go ahead and leave my resolution at the 150. And we're going to switch our background color because we're doing acrylic. We're going to switch that to a white background. All right, hit OK. So right here is our working area, our background. So let's go ahead and import in our image. And the image we're going to be working with here, I thought, is this nice old lady drinking some coffee here. So we're going to go up to File and Import. And I'm going to look on my desktop where I have my photo. Just going to kind of bring it in anywhere and just click to drop it in. Now I'm not going to worry about actually like cropping or walking through any of those processes. As you can see, our image is a lot bigger than our working area here. Always remember that with Corel Photo Paint, we will only be exporting what is inside of our working area, nothing else. So once I kind of have that situated where I would like it, kind of like that. I am going to do a little bit of photo editing on this. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because, again, we're kind of going after the process here. I do want to sharpen this up a little bit. So I'm going to grab my effects tool here on the left-hand side, the one that kind of looks like a Q-tip. I'm going to come up to my top left, and sharpen is already selected here. And we'll do a large soften. And just kind of highlight some more of the details here. All right. So like I said, we're not going to get too detailed with that. So now what I actually want to do is I want to separate this image. So I want to be able to basically cut it in half here. So what we're going to be using is we're going to be using our ruler line here. Now if you don't have your ruler line pulled up, you can always go up to View and then down here to Rulers to add in your ruler lines. So I'm going to come over to my left-hand side ruler and I'm going to click and I'm going to drag. Just like so. Grab my pick tool here. And with this line here, I can actually get pretty detailed on where I want this line to be at. So what we're going to do, we're going to set this, let's see, we were at 605. So we want this to be close to the 300.25. Zoom in a little bit here. And as you zoom in, you can see how much more of my notches that I have here. We're going to set that right there. All right. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to my cropping tool. So I'm going to come over to the left-hand side. Right below my mask transform is my cropping tool. So I'm going to grab this, and then I'm just going to go ahead and draw my box here. And I can actually adjust that size right here as well. So I know this was 605, so we're going to do 300.25. And then our height is going to be 300. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab our cropping tool until we get right to that line there. We can use our arrow keys just to nudge our circle or our crop box up just a little bit. Again, I'm going to kind of zoom into that area. We're off our dotted line here a little bit. So again, we're going to zoom way in. Get back right on that line. There we go. So just a smidge. There we go. Just double check. Said you really want to take your time with this. This is a process you want to quickly go through. All right. So after I have this cropped, or my crop box selected, I'm just going to come up here and crop. So from here, I'm going to actually export this part out. So I'm going to go to File, Export. I'm just going to go ahead and put this on my desktop. We want a Windows bitmap. Go ahead and export, and we're going to save flattened. All right, so now that's our first step. The second step is we're going to repeat this. So I'm just going to come up to my undo button and undo. And I'm going to do it on the other side now. Just kind of place it there. 300.25 by 300. And zoom in. And we're right on that line. We're going to bring our back end in just a smidge. All right, I'm going to go ahead and crop this one here. And then we're going to go exact same process, File, up to Export. And I'm going to call this one Stitching Test 2. So we want to separate these two. You can also name this like top, middle, bottom, whatever, however many sections that you're going to have here. Go ahead and export that. Save flattened. All right. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go ahead and minimize this. And we're going to open up our photograph here. Okay, these are our two parts here. I get a visual look there. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my image here. I'm going to find our first one. We're going to select material here. And we're going to do clear acrylic. Actually, let me change my view here real quick. There we go. All right. And so we're going to do 150 DPI and hit enter. Now, when you're doing this process here, you want to make sure that you are adjusting both these photos as if they were one. One of the things to keep in mind, and when you're doing this, if you are making any adjustments up here, is just to come up here to this display info button. If we click this button here, it's going to give us a photograph report that's going to show us where all of our settings were. Okay, this is again very important because you want both sides to match, make them look like they're one single image here. For today's process here, I'm really not going to make a lot of adjustments in here. I'm just going to kind of leave it by adjusting the DPI. So I'm just going to click on the display info button to get out of there and go ahead and final process and then save my image. All right, let's hit save. Go ahead and go to File, New Session, and repeat. Find number 2 here. Select material. And we're going to change our DPI to 150. Now, if you've kind of noticed, the adjustment on the grayscale on this side came up a little bit different than our other one. Mainly because, again, these are kind of two separate images here. This side here had a lot more darkness to it, which is why this adjust grayscale was showing a little bit different adjustments. But if we look at our enhance edges, apply screen, and threshold, those should all be the same. I'm going to go ahead and final process this one here. And go ahead and save image. Okay, and got number 2. Okay, so from here, what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and open up our RDWorks program. And the first thing that I want to do, I'm actually going to bring in both of these images because I just want to double check how everything cropped out to make sure it's going to line up correctly. So we have our first part here. And I'm going to go ahead and import in our second one here. So again, this is just kind of a visual check. And they look pretty good there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and delete this one here. Oop. Not quite sure what happened there. There we go. All right, so this one here, I'm actually going to rotate, because again, I'm going to kind of slide this in lengthwise. That. Oop. I got the wrong one here. All right, so switch that. 90 just like so. The next thing I want to do, I'm going to go ahead and set my laser origin. Everybody may have a different preference on doing this, on where you're setting this at. Again, like most of these videos, this is just kind of my process here. So I'm going to go up to Config, System Settings. And actually what I want to do is I'm going to start on the bottom center here. Go ahead and hit OK. I'm going to go ahead and double click on my scan mode here and adjust my speed and power settings. Now I'm going to go ahead and leave the masking on the piece of acrylic. So I'm going to run a little bit higher temperatures than I normally would if this was just straight acrylic or just engraving directly onto the acrylic. So I'm going to slow my speed down to 25 and bump my power up to 35. Now I know that seems a little bit high, but again, the masking that's on the acrylic is pretty thick. It's got an adhesive underneath that, so I just want to make sure that I'm going through the masking, the adhesive, and then actually getting into the acrylic. Our interval, we're going to use a 0.0067, or if we're running that in DPI, 150. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And let's go ahead and power on our machine, and let's start taking our measurements, and then we'll get this downloaded. Now, the file part here was kind of the easy part. As you can see, it's very straightforward, very simple. This is really where the patience and the technique is going to come into, is actually lining this up. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this piece down. And what I'm going to simulate with this is actually we're going to be starting this on a position. I'm going to push this up and then reposition to try to pick up on the exact same spot here. So let's go ahead and let's check our focus. Good there. And look good down there. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this down along my base. This up just this here. And then we're just going to check out to make sure that we're straight.
All right, we're looking good there. So I'm going to kind of come to my center mark. Off slightly there. I'm going to kind of come to the center of where my lines are intersecting here. Now, if you're kind of having a little bit of a hard time, kind of like I am right now, with getting that nudged over correctly, what you can always do is hit the speed button on your machine and lower your speed down. I'm going to lower mine down to 65 millimeters per second. Go ahead and hit enter. Now, that's not going to have any effect over the actual run of the image. It's just for keying and framing. So you can see now I can nudge that over a little bit easier. Down just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and hit my origin to lock that into place. We're going to jump over our computer and we're going to download our image real quick. There we go. Sorry about that. I've got an extra extender on my USB cable here. Okay, our file's downloaded, so let's go see how we're going to frame out here. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit origin again just to be safe. All right, now just for safety's sakes here, I'm going to find my pen and I'm going to go ahead and make a mark there. Again, just to make sure that I can find that again. There we go. All right, we're gonna go ahead and close our lid here. Turn my exhaust on. And we'll hit start. All right, so that side there is going to take probably about 10-15 minutes to run through there. So I see we've got a couple questions always coming on here. So I'll be more than happy to answer these questions while we're letting this side run. So I have Megan asking, she doesn't do a lot of photos, wanted to know if 150 DPI is standard. Yes, that is the standard DPI that I run all my photos at. So, and then someone else is saying you can run a little bit higher DPI, you know, with Sean Murray. Actually what Sean Murray does, he does a little bit different techniques. He actually runs scripts, which does a little bit different type of effects with that. If you're just doing normal photo processing, I would recommend the 150. I've never gone wrong with that at all. So somebody is asking, Meg is asking what a script is. So basically a script is kind of a already processed, or it's kind of like Photograph, only you basically can purchase these scripts and it does all of the dithering and everything for you on that particular photo. I know Sean, I do believe, is going to be down at our LaserCon event. If you've got questions about those scripts and things like that, he's a great person to answer those for you. And then I've got Skip asking, a little bit off topic, difference in the distance the extension tube is, extend or retracted. Honestly, Skip, that doesn't really matter too much there. Basically, you're getting the raw power of the beam when it's reflecting off the mirrors until it gets down to that focus lens. Once it gets down to that focus lens, that's when it really turns into a really fine dot. So that extension tube is meant to adjust up or down if you're needing a little bit more adjustment to get to your height. Like if your machine is bottomed out completely, you can slide that tube down to help achieve that focal distance. All right. While that's running there, I'm going to go ahead and bring in my next image here and get that set up. So import number 2. All right, I'm going to rotate that one also 90 degrees. And I'm just going to kind of slide this down again just to kind of see how we're lining up there. It's pretty good. So go ahead and delete my top one now. Now, I'm sure this question is going to come up here pretty soon here, but there is also a process for stitching vector images. I do plan on making a video next month to cover those vector images on how to stitch like a cutout if you're cutting out a large piece of wood, or the same kind of thing doing an engraving too. So please, if you're interested in stitching, please keep an eye out for that video coming next month. As always, if you guys ever have any questions over this video, any of our other videos and processes, please feel free to give our tech support team a call, 844-364-8211. They'll be more than happy to point you in any direction. I am going to also be working on some written instructions to go along with this. Again, you can kind of see that the process behind it is pretty simple. It's just the machine side of things on sliding that material up, making sure that you're staying square, picking up right where you left off.
just to make you aware, there are a lot of things that can go wrong with the stitching process, okay? So if you try it once, you don't get the look that you wanted to, or you've got a slight overlap, that is okay. Just keep practicing. When I first started off and started using these things, one thing that I tried to use was something smaller like this to kind of hone in on it. Again, I've been doing this for quite a few years, and I still run into issues when I'm trying to stitch an image, okay? Again, it's just practicing, double checking, kind of that old rule of thumb, measure twice, cut once. Oh, Megan and Ron, yes, I do plan on continuing these. I really do enjoy being here with you guys. I'm glad you guys all enjoy them as well. It's always nice to talk to people on the phone. Occasionally I do even pop in on a training session, so you may even see me once in a while in there. And again, I really enjoy making these, and I'm glad everyone's finding them enjoyable and informative as well. Ron's asking what speed and power I'm running. I'm actually running at a 25 speed, 35 power. Again, a little bit higher than I would normally go with acrylic, but again, I want to make sure that I'm getting through that tape and everything. Now, one thing I want to point out as well, with Photograve and just how intuitive Photograve is, if you notice that the Photograve actually mirrored this image for me once I exported that out. So I already knew that I was putting it on acrylic, so it wants to engrave the image backwards, so when you flip that around, when we peel off the front of that tape, it should be our normal image here. Sorry everybody, I'm kind of jumping back and forth between two computers here. Yeah, and if anybody is interested in going to our LaserCon event down in Orlando, Florida, coming up here in a few weeks, I do believe registration is still open. I myself am going to be down there personally. I'd love to meet and greet and actually get some face-to-face time with everybody and meet everybody. I'll also be doing a couple classes down there as well. I've got some really fun things planned out. And actually, if you don't make it down to LaserCon and you're worried about the content we're going to be showing there, again, I am planning on making duplicate videos of that. I'm not sure if we're going to be recording down there or not quite yet. But again, I do have some fun things planned for everybody. Yeah, looks like Frank's going to be down there. Frank, we've talked quite a few times. I'm looking really forward to meeting you, buddy. Skip's asking one of my other videos, something about using another cone or better results. I'll be honest with you, Skip, I make a lot of these videos. If you kind of tell me which video it was, I could probably give you a little bit better explanation behind it. If you watch some of our other ones, occasionally I do use different types of lenses and I do use different cones. What we are running today, I am running with a 100-watt machine and the standard 2-inch lens that comes with all of our machines. But yeah, it may be a different lens that I may have used or a different cone altogether. Feel free also, if you have questions about any of the videos, you're more than welcome to email me directly. My email address is very simple. It's Jason, Jason, at aplazer.com. That is laser with a Z. All right, we're moving along there pretty well. A little bit longer to go here.
And based off the video that I'm looking at here, it does look like we're getting through that tape pretty well. Was the cone from the 1812? Okay, I think Skip. I think maybe the one you were referring to, I think may have been my wood engraving. I could be wrong on that, but typically, yeah, with my wood engraving, I do like to use that 1812 cone. It does expose the lens a little bit more, but a lot of times with things like wood and glass, especially glass, that may have been the other one I used that shortened up cone on. It has a tendency, because the dust buildup on that is a little bit heavier, so the air assist has a hard time pushing that away. So I actually find using that shortened up cone gives me enough distance, and it still allows me to hook up my air assist. So I don't have to worry about that buildup on the bottom of that cone. What can happen, especially with glass and certain woods, is that buildup will actually end up blocking the beam. And so you go to look at your project and there's an empty line there where the laser made a pass, but that buildup blocked the beam until it fell off. All right, cruising along. All right. Frank's asking if the buildup could be part of the banding issue he sometimes sees. That can cause some of those issues. A lot of times with the banding that you may get in a photograph is typically, not always, but typically loose due to a loose optic somewhere, either mirrors or in your lens itself. Basically, the buildup is going to cause more of like empty lines or missing lines than the banding issue. Everyone asking if I'm going to be doing his trading on Monday. Unfortunately, no, sir. I'm actually going to be off this Monday because I am coming in tomorrow to host a 18-12-26-16 light burn session. So I'll actually be off on Monday. All right, getting close to being done here, and then we're going to see how crafty Jason is and if he can get this in one shot here. Sorry, this video here is actually taking a little bit longer. I am running a little bit slower speed though than I normally would. Just let everybody know too that if you are going to LaserCon, I am going to have a lot of these finished products that we've been doing in these videos down there as well, including the monument we did a couple weeks ago. That's actually getting shipped down. I've pretty much gathered all of my materials here just to showcase them. So someone's asking if I like using the orange masking tape from JDS on glasses. I've actually never used that particular type of masking tape before, but normal masking tape is normally what I use, but I'll definitely look into maybe ordering some of that and giving it a test, and I could probably give you a better evaluation after that point. I know with masking tape, you've got a ton of different kinds. When I'm typically running things, believe it or not, with masking tape, I prefer to use the painter's tape, especially if I'm doing an etching on something and I'm not really looking to paint. It just has a little bit less adhesiveness to it. Plus, it's stark enough that if you do a light engraving on it, it gives you a nice test sample just to make sure everything's lining up correctly. So Paul's asking on here, he kind of joined us a little bit late, asking why we would do something like this. Basically, Paul, this is a technique that if you're trying to run a larger piece of material than the actual working area, on how you can actually separate the image and run two different ones to do nice long monument. A technique we've done with this in the past in our production area has been for large monuments. So maybe like a 5 to 6 foot tall by 5 foot wide, granite marker or something that's going into a park that we can't actually fit inside of our machine to run it through. So something like that, you would actually remove the Z table, and this is where the pass-through would be coming into play. So you'd be able to run the top of the monument, slide it through, realign, and then run the second part. All right, looks like we're just about finished here, and then it's going to come the hard part. All right. So just a few more minutes here, and then we're going to go ahead and download this image here, and we're going to slide our material up. All right, looks like we are done here. So I'm going to go ahead and download my new image here. All right, image downloaded successfully. Okay, let's jump over here now. All right, so what I want to do now is I actually want to slide this up here. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pretend this is a large monument. So I'm sliding it back up here. I'm going to make sure I'm still nice and straight. So now what I want to do is I want to get as close back to my line as possible. can still see my mark there a little bit. Okay. Come out a little bit. All right, does appear that I'm back on my mark. So I'm going to double check my settings here. And so actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually move my origin now. Instead of the bottom, I want to come up to the top center. So we're going to move our laser head there. I'm going to go ahead and re-download. All right, we're going to go ahead and frame out. Oop. Now, if you notice, I didn't do that right because I forgot to hit my origin button. So I'm going to have to realign here. Slow my speed down just a little bit more here. There we go. Make sure I'm staying on my mark. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit origin. Again, this is not a process that you want to rush too quickly. Always, again, measure twice, cut once, kind of a scenario. All right, we look like we're staying right on our line here. All right, we're going to go ahead and close the lid. And let's hit start. Now, if I've done this correctly, once this is done, we really shouldn't see any kind of difference inside there. I'll turn my light back on so we can see a little bit better. There we go. So again, if you guys have more questions over this, this is going to probably take another 10-15 minutes to run here. I'll be more than happy to answer anything that you may have. Hope everyone's having a great Friday, getting ready for the weekend. That's kind of in operation. I'm going to take a little peek here just to see how things are coming. All right, looking good so far. We'll have to wait for our final product here. So Frank's asking, give you an idea of what's going to happen in LaserCon. So we got a lot of fun things planned out at LaserCon. We've got some guest speakers coming in. We've got some customers, some very talented customers that are always on our Facebook user group trying to help out. I believe Sean Murray's coming. Matt Buxton's going to be making an appearance. I do believe Chris Alexander, who is just phenomenal at photos, is going to be joining us as well. Myself, I'm going to be doing a presentation. I've got a couple classes going on, about a half hour. But it's also a really good chance for you to kind of mingle with some other customers, some potential customers, kind of make some connections, among yourselves. I'm sure a lot of you talk back and forth on Facebook, so it's a chance to actually meet and greet each other, get kind of that face-to-face interaction. So I'm having Ron ask, why do my photos come out too dark? Ron, I'd kind of have to see if it's just kind of a light etching that you're having there and not getting real bright or deep into the material. It really could be a couple different things. Anything from, beam alignment, focus, lens orientation, or even something as simple as like speed and power settings on there. While we're on the topic of alignment though too, I would recommend that before attempting this type of process, you are going to want to double check your alignment and make sure that is spot on and matching up to where your red dot is at as well. Those two are very critical on being able to pick up and where you had left off on a photo like this. Even if you've got a little bit of a half millimeter gap between there, with photographs is going to be very, very noticeable. Now when you're doing this kind of process through vector kind of images, it's not as critical because you can always kind of hide things, you can shift things around a little bit. But definitely with photos, because we are trying to match things up, like with this particular one with the face, we want that to line up pretty well. Ron's saying when you're engraving on wood, I'd kind of have to see exactly what you're working with there, Ron. If you're always having issues with that, please, by all means, again, give our tech support team a call and talk to them about that. You're always more than welcome to try to email me as well. Again, my email address is just Jason, Jason, at aplazer.com. Frank's trying a grayscale. Actually, Frank, you may be selecting the wrong grayscale. There are two different grayscale options in Corel Photo Paint. There's the 8-bit grayscale and then just your typical grayscale. So if you are selecting that 8-bit grayscale, that could be part of the issue that you're having there. Tell you what, we are getting close to our end time here. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and stop this project where it's at. We've got enough engraving on where that line was at for us to kind of take a look to see how well we did with lining this up. So I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to go ahead and hit the start pause and then escape to send it back home. All right, so you can kind of see that I was off just ever so slightly. It looks like that we were good for top to bottom there, but I do have a line going right through my image here. So it looks like I was just probably about a millimeter off there, about the thickness of my finger. There we go there. So while our engraving turned out pretty nicely here, again, that line there is going to be part of that issue there. Try to get refocused here so everybody can kind of see that. There we go there. So yeah, you can kind of see again, it's not very much. It's about the thickness of my finger there, but it is going to have an effect. It does look like otherwise though, we did line up with everything else pretty well. And if this had been shifted over just that smidge,
it would have lined up just perfectly there. But again, you can kind of see, even with somebody that's like me, have been doing this for many, many years, I still occasionally run into issues like this. And so while it's an easy enough process, it is kind of a difficult thing to do. Again, practice. If you're able to test out, make sure to test out. Double check your alignment. Make sure that your material's lined up correctly. One of these days, I'll get this right on the first shot, I promise. So I've got a couple more questions here. Paul asks if I have any plans to come to the Mountain West for a LaserCon. I'm not sure what they have planned out. I know this is kind of our first time venturing out since the COVID pandemic has started. I know they're very interested in trying to get out to a lot more conventions now that things are slowly trying to open up. So I'm hoping to be able to go out to a lot more of those and meet more people. But if nobody else has any questions here, you use waypoints. I'm not sure what you mean about waypoints there, but feel free, go ahead and shoot me an email with any questions that you may have. I'll be more than happy to try to answer them the best that I can. I do appreciate you guys all being here with me today. I know we got some more that we're going to be working on next week. I think we're going to be doing some jig work. So I hope to see everybody in that class as well. Until next Friday, you guys have a great day and a better weekend. Bye, everybody.